I still remember the sound of glass shattering. Not the kind from a broken vase or a dropped wine glass. This was sharper. It was the sound of my daughter's iPhone hitting the floor, followed by my brother's voice, loud and furious, echoing through the house like thunder. It's been 2 years since that night. I'm sitting in my office now, corner view, 12th floor, sipping coffee from a white porcelain mug that says Mom Mode, always on. Outside, the city hums, alive and distant. Inside, it's quiet, except for the faint buzz of a text that flashes across my phone screen. Happy 18th, Haley Red Heart. My fingers hesitate before replying. Every year on her birthday, that memory creeps in, the candles, the laughter, then the chaos. The night my brother, Michael, smashed her phone in front of everyone, accusing her of being disrespectful, and then, unbelievably, calling the cops on her. My little girl, handcuffed on her own birthday because my brother couldn't control his temper. I swallow hard and look out the window. The skyline's different now.
So am I.
People see the polished version of me, tailored suit, calm voice, the woman who has it all together. They don't see the mother who stood on her porch under flashing blue lights, holding her daughter and promising she'd never let anyone hurt her again. They don't know what that promise cost me, or what it built. I thought that night would end with candles and cake. Instead, it ended with sirens. The night had started perfectly. Soft music, fairy lights, the smell of vanilla cake floating through the air. Haley's 16th birthday. I'd spent weeks planning it, desperate to give her the kind of memory every teenage girl deserves. Her friends were laughing in the backyard, taking pictures by the pool. I remember standing by the kitchen island, adjusting the pastel balloons when Michael walked in, all confidence and cheap cologne. My older brother had always carried himself like he owned every room he entered, even when it wasn't his. Wow, he said, glancing around. Pretty fancy for a 16-year-old. Must be nice, huh? I forced a smile. It's her big day, Mike. Let's just enjoy it. He chuckled under his breath, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and muttered, "Kids these days don't appreciate half of what they get." I should have seen it coming. Later, when Haley opened her last gift, a silver box wrapped in pink ribbon, everyone leaned in. Her eyes lit up the moment she saw it. The newest iPhone, something she'd saved months for, paying part of it herself from her weekend job. She whispered, "Thanks, Mom," and hugged me tight. Then Michael's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You bought her that? Are you kidding me?" Conversations died mid-sentence. "It's fine, Mike," I said quickly. "She earned half of it. It's her birthday."
He scoffed.
Half. What's that teaching her, huh? That she can have whatever she wants? That rules don't apply if she bats her lashes? Haley's face went pale. "Uncle Mike, Before she could finish, he snatched the phone from her hands and hurled it to the floor. The sound was deafening. For a second, everyone froze. The screen lay in pieces, glittering under the string lights like shards of ice. Haley's lip trembled. Then came the yelling, mine. "Michael, stop. You're scaring her." "She's disrespectful," he shouted back. "You let her walk all over you." When he stormed out and returned with his phone in hand, I thought he was leaving. He wasn't. He was dialing 911. "Mike, what are you doing?" "Teaching her a lesson," he said coldly. "You won't, so I will." The sirens came fast, red and blue flashing through our white picket fence. Haley crying into my shoulder, whispering, "Mom, I didn't do anything." She hadn't. But that night, something inside me broke, and something else woke up. The woman I became started right there, on that driveway, under the glow of police lights. After that night, I stopped expecting my family to protect us. I packed our things the next morning, a few suitcases, Haley's textbooks, my laptop, and we left without saying goodbye. My mother called once, said Michael didn't mean it, that I was overreacting. I hung up before she finished the sentence. We moved into a tiny 2-bedroom apartment above a bakery. The walls smelled like sugar and yeast. It wasn't much, but it was ours. I found a job as an assistant at a local event planning company. The pay barely covered rent, but every time I saw Haley smile over takeout noodles, I knew we were going to be okay. The first few months were brutal. Early mornings, late nights. Sometimes, after Haley fell asleep, I'd sit at the kitchen table, scrolling through design blogs, teaching myself marketing, decor trends, anything that might get us ahead. My fingertips smelled like glue and coffee most nights. Then came Linda Hartman, my boss. A woman in her 50s with a silver bob, sharp eyes, and the kind of poise that made people listen. One night, after a chaotic wedding setup, she sat beside me, handed me a cup of tea, and said, "You've got an eye, Claire. Don't waste it working for someone else forever." I laughed. "I can't even afford new curtains, Linda." She smiled. "That's temporary. Talent isn't." Those words stayed with me. Months later, when Linda retired, she offered me her leftover client list. "Just try," she'd said, and I did. I started small. Birthday parties, local fundraisers, baby showers. I used dollar store ribbons and thrifted linens, but I made magic out of scraps. People noticed. Soon, word spread. A friend of a client referred me to a corporate event downtown, then another. Within a year, I had my own logo, my own clients, my own company, Blue Ivy Events. I didn't post much online. No bragging, no updates. My family still thought I was just doing odd jobs. Let them. The silence became my armor. Haley grew up watching me hustle. She'd sit cross-legged on the floor, painting centerpieces or packing goodie bags while doing homework. She learned that strength wasn't loud, it was steady. The night I signed my first big contract, a six-figure deal with a tech firm, she was beside me, holding my hand. "Mom," she said softly, "you did it." I smiled through tears. We did it. By the time she turned 18, the business had tripled. I bought a house overlooking the city, sleek, glass walls, white stone floors. Every inch of it whispered the same message: you made it. Without them. But even in success, there was a shadow, the unspoken memory of that night, the family we'd left behind. And deep down, I knew life had a way of circling back to the things you thought you'd escaped. I just didn't know how soon that circle would close. It happened on a Wednesday. I remember because I was halfway through a client meeting when my assistant buzzed in and said, "There's a man here asking for you, Ms. Dalton. Says it's family." I froze. Family. That word still carried weight. Heavy, rusted, and sharp. When I stepped into the lobby, there he was. Michael. Older now, hair thinner, confidence gone soft around the edges. His once steady hands fidgeted with a cheap leather briefcase. "Claire," he said, forcing a smile.
"Wow.
"You look different." "Time does that," I replied, keeping my voice even. He looked around, the glass walls, the gold lettering behind the reception desk, Blue Ivy Events. It took him a few seconds before realization sank in. "Wait, this is your company?" "It is." His mouth opened slightly, then shut. For the first time in my life, my brother didn't have a smart remark ready. He cleared his throat. I needed to talk. "I'm consulting now for a real estate group. They're looking for an event partner for an expansion gala. I thought maybe you'd be interested." I let the silence hang. He shifted uncomfortably. I gestured toward the conference room. "Let's talk inside." He followed me in, eyes darting around, the marble table, framed awards, photos of smiling clients. Then his gaze landed on the picture of me and Haley, graduation day, both of us laughing. He swallowed. "She's grown up." "She has." "She doing okay?" "More than okay," I said softly. "She's in college now. Communications major." He nodded, pretending to smile. That's good." I sat down, folded my hands. "So, you need my help." He winced at the word. "I wouldn't put it like that. More like a collaboration." I leaned back, letting my heels click against the floor, slow, deliberate.
Funny.
"The last time you collaborated with my family, you called the police on my daughter." His face drained of color. "Claire, I made a mistake, okay? I was angry. I thought. You thought she was disrespectful. I remember." He opened his mouth, but I lifted my hand. "You humiliated her in front of her friends. You smashed something she worked for. You broke her heart." And then, you made me apologize to keep the peace. The silence was suffocating. Even the air felt heavy. Finally, I said, "Do you know what happened after that night?" He shook his head. I started over. Every piece of this, I gestured around the room, was built from the ground up. No help, no loans, no family. Just me and that same girl you called spoiled. He blinked, swallowing hard. "Claire, I didn't know." "I know you didn't," I said quietly. "You never asked." I stood and walked toward the window. The city stretched wide and bright below us, the same city that had once felt too big, too impossible. "I'm not angry anymore," I said finally, "but I am careful. I learned that love without respect is just control dressed as care." When I turned back, Michael's eyes were wet. "Claire, please. I need this contract. I'm not asking for charity." I looked at him, the man who'd once thought breaking a phone could teach a lesson. "Maybe you're not," I said, "but you are asking for forgiveness. And that's earned, not signed." He nodded slowly, shame softening his face. As he turned to leave, I stopped him. "Michael," I said. He turned, hopeful. "I'll think about it," I said simply. "Send the proposal to my assistant. We'll review it like any other client. No special treatment. No hatred. Just boundaries finally mine." 2 days later, his proposal landed in my inbox. It was professional, polished, the kind of thing Michael was always good at on the surface. But underneath the numbers, I could feel his desperation. The project meant survival for him. And somehow, that didn't make me happy. It just made me reflective. I waited a full week before responding. Then I invited him to my home, the place I'd bought for Haley and me after years of quiet hustle. Floor-to-ceiling windows, sunlight pouring in, vases of lilies Haley had arranged herself. Everything about that house whispered calm, the calm I'd built from chaos. When Michael arrived, he hesitated at the doorway like he didn't belong there.
He didn't, not yet.
"Nice place," he murmured, eyes darting over the framed photos, the subtle luxury, the success he never imagined I could have. "Thanks," I said. "I worked for it." We sat across from each other at the dining table. No assistants, no lawyers, just family and history sitting face to face. "I reviewed your proposal," I began. His posture stiffened. "And I'll accept it," I said. His eyes widened. "You will?"
Yes.
"But on my terms." He frowned. "Terms?"
Yes.
"Not business terms, personal ones." He leaned back slowly. "I'm listening." I folded my hands. "First, you're going to call Haley. You're going to apologize. Not the kind of apology that makes excuses, a real one. She deserves to hear that from the man who broke her trust." He nodded, guilt written all over his face. "I can do that." "Second," I continued, "you're going to get help for your anger. I don't care if it's therapy, a support group, whatever it takes. I won't sign anything until you show me you've started." He looked at me speechless. "You think I need therapy?" he said finally. "I know you do," I said gently. "And there's no shame in it. But I won't have you around my daughter, or my life, until I know you're safe to be around." He blinked hard, jaw tight, but didn't argue. "And third," I said, my tone softening, "you're going to stop pretending that control equals care. You don't have to dominate people to be strong. You don't have to hurt to be heard." He looked down at his hands, trembling slightly. "You sound like Dad," he whispered. "No," I said, my voice firm. "I sound like the woman I became because of Dad, and because of you." Silence hung between us for a long moment. Then quietly he said, "I don't deserve your help." "Maybe not," I said. "But you deserve a chance to become better. That's all I'm offering." When he finally stood to leave, there was no arrogance left in him. Only humility, maybe even gratitude. As the door closed behind him, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small around him. I didn't feel afraid or angry. I just felt free. 3 months later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, it was Michael. His voice was calm, softer than I remembered.
Claire, he said.
I just wanted you to know. I started therapy. Anger management. 3 sessions in. I smiled faintly, staring out the window at the afternoon light spilling across the floor. I'm glad, Mike. He hesitated, and I called Haley. We talked. She forgave me. That part hit me deeper than I expected. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. She's got a big heart. Don't take that for granted. I won't, he said quietly. Then, for the first time in years, there was peace in his tone. Thank you, Claire, for not giving up on me. After we hung up, I just stood there, letting the silence settle. The air in the house felt different, lighter somehow. Haley came downstairs a few minutes later, her hair tied in a messy bun, holding something small in her hand. Hey, Mom, she said. Look what I found. It was a tiny box. Inside it lay her old, cracked iPhone, the one Michael had smashed that night. She'd cleaned it, polished it, even framed the shattered glass inside a thin layer of resin. The screen's spiderweb cracks glittered under the sunlight like frozen lightning. I thought it deserved a second life, she said with a little grin. I laughed softly, tears threatening to spill. You always were good at making broken things beautiful. She placed it on my office shelf, right beside the framed photo from her graduation. For a long moment, I just stared at it. That phone wasn't just glass and circuits anymore. It was everything we survived. Years of struggle. Silence turned into strength. Pain turned into purpose. I thought of Linda's words. Talent isn't temporary. And I realized neither is love or forgiveness or growth. They just take time to bloom. That night, as Haley and I sat on the porch watching the city lights flicker below, she leaned her head on my shoulder. You ever think about that birthday? She asked softly. Every year, I admitted, but not with pain anymore. Why's that? I smiled. Because that's the night we stopped waiting for someone to save us and started saving ourselves. The breeze carried her laughter into the night, light and free. And in that moment, I finally knew they broke her phone that night. But they didn't break us.